any music for the pre-show, but we are all here. So today's episode is episode 48 for All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show. We're here with Miles Kanitir and crew from Savage Mojo, and we're going to introduce them in just a second. First, let me say hello to my co-hosts, Layroon and Furid. Furid, how are you today? All right, let's go to Layroon.
All right, I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Pretty excited. Thanks.
Cool. Furid, are you there? We might have lost her.
Sorry, now I'm here. I'm just having technical difficulties, and apparently I don't know how to work my fucking phone.
Well, then that's par for the course, because we've spent the last half hour trying to get things organized as much as we can. It has not been very successful. But anyway, welcome. How you doing?
Doing good. Happy I'm here, and I'm excited to talk with the Mojo.
All right, cool. So, we are here. We have how many people? 4 other people. That's awesome. So let's go ahead and introduce them, or rather have them introduce themselves. And I guess we'll start with Miles Kanitir. And Miles, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then tell us all about Savage Mojo. And perhaps you then can introduce the other people on your crew. That would be a good way to do it.
Well, now that's sounding pretty good. So hello to everybody who is watching and listening. My name is Miles Kanitir. I am the publisher at Savage Mojo. And for those who wonder what a publisher does, a publisher's job is to carry the can when things go wrong and to herd cats the other 99% of the time, until such time as major catastrophes happen, at which point you herd cats for 1% of the time and carry the can for 99%. That's it. That's all a publisher does. So that's nice and easy. I am the guy who invented the Suzerain universe, which has been around for about 20 years. In fact, it is its 20th anniversary year this year. It is a role-play setting that these days has been very successfully licensed as a Savage World setting since 2008 with the 2nd edition. And we are just coming into a 3rd edition launching this year. So it's like we do a new edition every 10 years, spriten things up a little bit. And this is a big year for us. So we are about to do that launch. We'll talk a lot about that. Here with me today, I have Clyde, the Suzerain Guide, who, if you join the community, is always there to help answer questions, get you joining in a game, and things like that. So say hi, Clyde.
Hello.
There you go. I also have Janine. Elspeth is the lady who has largely kept me sane on Discord for the last 6 months as we build our Discord community. She has done a bunch of the conversions of Suzerain PDFs into Fantasy Grounds modules, and she is always the voice of reason.
Yeah.
There you go.
The voice of reason. You can call me Jeanette or you can call me Elspeth, either.
Jeanette or Elspeth. Okay. And that's Elspeth for everybody that's wondering how that's spelled.
Oh, please, I'm going to have to do the same thing I do with Jeanette. It's 2 L's.
Oh, it's 2 L's. See, I didn't even know because I'm an illiterate bastard. So it's Ellspeth, Elspeth.
Then don't try to spell Jeanette. Please, don't.
Jeanette is spelled Jen-et.
Okay, we're off to a great start. Our spelling bee continues with Gun Bunny Foo-Foo. We are desperately not going to ask anybody to spell that. Please don't.
Common spelling.
Okay, and how do you prefer to be known? Gun, Bunny, Foo? What do you prefer, Chris? I mean, Gun Bunny Foo-Foo.
Gun Bunny or Chris?
Because that's adorable.
Okay, well, Chris is just the person who actually made our module happen in the first place, the first Suzerain conversion, and will be, bless his willing to do this, actually doing the conversion of the new edition Suzerain Legends to Fantasy Grounds. We will be ready to launch the PDF of that at the same time as the PDF of the new Savage Worlds edition launches again. We'll probably be talking about that a fair bit. And our goal, we can but hope, technical difficulties aside, we can but hope that we get the new Fantasy Grounds edition of Suzerain out at the same sort of time as Savage Worlds, as Pinnacle Entertainment gets the Suede Savage Worlds Adventurers edition out for Fantasy Grounds, and we'll just see how that goes. I mean, that's one of those things out in the air that that nobody really knows how long they'll take to do their conversion, how long we'll take to do ours. But we would love to be there day one so that all the Savages can come into their Fantasy Grounds games, get straight into the new edition of Suzerain, and play in their various realms. So.
They
yeah,
have
we'll
only
see
at
about
this
that.
point said sometime in 2019, right? They haven't narrowed it down beyond that.
Now, I probably know more behind the scenes than I did know, than I should know, so therefore I couldn't possibly comment.
Okay, gotcha. Right. FG
So-
Fantasy Grounds Unity will be ready tomorrow. That's a huge lie. That is not even. That's well, good.
I was about to get really excited by that. I was so hyped by that.
That's
statement.
that's the big joke now. The joke used to be that if you mentioned it, if anybody said the words Fantasy Grounds Unity in a row, that just made it 3 months from the time it was out loud said by anybody. Now the joke is it's coming tomorrow, which is obviously a huge lie, and that's the joke that everybody's making now, is that it's going to be ready tomorrow. And then no, that's not true.
Well,
but you
okay,
have
fair. Maybe somebody's going to watch this on YouTube, and it actually does come out tomorrow.
True, but they would have to be watching this not on December 2nd, 19... Oh my god, I'm so in the past, everybody. I'm at least 18 years in the past. 2018 is the year now. It doesn't start with a 19 anymore. Also,
So this
just-
show is brought to you by the 21st century.
That is true,
And
it
at
is.
some point in the 21st century, we're expecting Fantasy Grounds Unity to happen. But folks, if you all go into your bathroom, look in the mirror, and you say the phrase Fantasy Grounds Unity, Fantasy Grounds from Unity, Fantasy Grounds Unity 3 times really fast, then it might just happen tomorrow.
Yes, and you'll also probably have to clean your mirror depending on how close you were. All right, excellent. Well, good. Welcome, everybody. It's very nice to have you here. Guys, if you are in the chat on Twitch and you have questions, feel free to go ahead and post those, and we'll present them to our 4 guests and try to get answers for you. We will be giving away at least one prize throughout the course of the show, too, so hang tight for that. Leroon, you wrote the talking points, so did you want to start going down the way and walking us through that?
Sure. So I think Miles pretty much covered what most of these team members did. But one of the things I wanted to ask is, what is the Savage Mojo relationship with Peg? What's that like?
It's fantastic. We were somewhat blessed because Savage Mojo has been really, really close to Shane and Pinnacle since Savage Worlds became a thing. So at the point where Deadlands and the Great Rail Wars were converted to become Savage Worlds and the first edition came out, pretty much right there from the beginning, Savage Mojo was involved in the development of those projects with Pinnacle. And it's a little known point that behind the scenes, Savage Mojo doesn't just publish Suzerain or our own role-play material, but we also provide art support visual art support to other publishers. So illustration, layout, graphic design, those kind of things. And so we've been involved in a bunch of Pinnacle products in the early days and became a licensee really very early on. Now, for those who weren't part of the Savage Worlds ecosystem back in the day, there were very few official licensees to Savage Worlds. That's changed a lot over the years as Shane's changed his view as to how he wants Savage Worlds to get out to the world. But originally, there really were only a handful of Triple Ace Games, Savage Mojo, and a few others, and very, very tightly controlled which settings would be allowed to become Savage settings. So we were very lucky to get there right at the beginning and to be there as part of Shane's little Savage Worlds family, and have seen how things have grown and changed over the years. Our art director for Suzerain for many years, Aaron Acevedo, is not only a wonderful guy, but is also extremely talented at art directing and managing art resources. And he's now the full-time art director for Pinnacle. So when you see the new edition of Savage Worlds, if you like the look and feel, you like the art that's being commissioned, and you like the way that it's laid out and the way it feels in your hand, that's pretty much all down to Aaron. And so we still have these very, very close links. It's like one larger family from that perspective. Even as the number of licensees has expanded, and now it's a lot easier for people to get Shane's permission to go and produce new settings for Savage Worlds than it used to be. That there's still that sense of all the licensees now to be called aces. All the aces work together to help each other out. So if somebody's doing a Kickstarter, then they'll say, okay, is anybody else doing a Kickstarter at the same time? Maybe we can work together to co-brand, to publicize each other's Kickstarters. Or okay, we're both doing Kickstarters for a very similar setting. Maybe we want to have one wait for a month. And this is just something that you don't normally see in role-play publishing. And we've been very, very lucky to be a part of it right from the beginning.
That's very good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is very cool. So Savage Worlds, the diversity and simplicity. So maybe that's an understatement, but can you explain a little bit about how Savage Worlds gives you that flexibility to be able to create diversity in the role-playing genres, and also that it can be simplified to where, you're not spending 5 hours, calculating modifiers and things like that to a character.
Right. I mean, Savage Worlds is not Rollmaster. So that's the first thing people need to understand. If you're expecting a full-page table for absolutely everything, then that kind of crunch is not Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds is exactly as it bills itself to be, and I'm very, very pleased about that because that works for Suzerain really well. It's fast, furious, fun. That's what Savage Worlds was always pegged as, and that's really what you get out of it. The settings that it was originally designed for were very heavily cinematic. If you have a good 1930s pulpy Indiana Jones setting, Savage Worlds would be perfect for that because it can keep the action flowing. It isn't a narrative system in that you throw the rules out of the window and just kind of go at the speed of plot. There's enough structure to it that any setting can get the players feeling like, yeah, their dice rolls actually matter. But at the same time, it doesn't bog down into, all right, so every fight, just us and a couple of mooks, is going to take 30 to 45 minutes. Those combats can be larger and on a more epic scale in that same time frame and still feel like every action that a player takes has a lot of agency. And I think that's something that not many rule systems manage to pull off really well. The thing that's changed with Savage Worlds over the years that I'm very pleased with as well is that in the early days, because it was a derivation of a tabletop gaming system, the Great Rail Wars, Savage Worlds was really just a combat simulator, and social skills, things like diplomacy and investigative skills, those were really, they were just on the side, tacked on if you absolutely have to do a diplomacy roll, then okay, this is kind of how you do it. There's not much for a person with smarts as a primary stat to do unless they've invested in arcane backgrounds and are a wizard. And as the years have gone by and the editions have gone, I do think that Shane's been really very clever with the way that he's dealt with Savage Worlds. He hasn't burnt it to the ground and rebuilt it in any of their editions. Each time it's evolution rather than revolution, but all of those evolutions have felt really, really impactful. The changes to Savage Worlds Deluxe a few years ago just made it feel like there was more for people to do with tricks and with some of the way that the skill rolls were readjusted, that made it better for characters who were rounded and not just combat focused. And that's carrying on with Suede, with the current edition that's just coming now, because you look at some of the changes that are made now. Now, obviously, as a licensee, I've now seen the whole rulebook because we're using that to help us design the new edition of Suzerain rules to fit in with the new edition. And I know that those who back the Kickstarter of Savage Worlds Adventures Edition, they'll be getting their PDFs in a couple of weeks' time, probably, that kind of time frame. So it's just around the corner. So I can't spoiler anything that Shane hasn't already said, but the things that have been made public, even they give a lot of hope to people who like a nice rounded play session. And the Suzerain universe, one of the key tenets of us setting it up even 20 years ago, so before Savage Worlds, we said that we wanted, whatever rule system we were in, we wanted to make sure that we could give people the best play experience across all the different types of encounter that we felt that were likely to come up in an average gaming session. So you've got your combat encounters, of course you do. Welcome to tabletop role playing. Getting to fisticuffs and gunfights is a thing that happens, but you've also got non-combat physical stuff going on, chases across rooftops, and I mean, you see this in things like James Bond films, like that first bit before the titles in each James Bond film. Yeah, usually a gun gets shot here and there, but also inevitably there's a chase, there's a scaling up a mountain, there are all sorts of physical activities that are not combat related. Then you've got the mental style of encounters where you're investigating, where you're trying to figure out a mystery, where you are thinking your way through rather than just pushing through by fighting through something. And then you've got your social encounters, the diplomacy of this world, where you have to convince the king and queen to commit their army or not commit their army, or you're trying to tell the troll to get out of your way because there's no way you can actually fight this beast. That mix is something that I think is, with every edition of Savage Worlds, becoming easier and easier for GMs to pull off, and players who want to play a certain type of character that isn't necessarily combat focused are getting treated better and better with every edition of Savage Worlds, and that suits Suzerain, because Suzerain is in itself a setting that is, well, it's a broad universe that allows people to play in many different ways. So I'm always championing that, and I love the fact that we partnered with with Savage Worlds, where over the years it's become easier and easier for us to harness that.
It's great. So without making a pun, so what are the milestones and the pinnacles that you have reached since you've been with Savage Mojo? And can you kind of recall or recollect any successes? Maybe you had a favorite thing that happened, pet project, something.
Okay, so wow, all the milestones. We're talking 20 years here. You guys have got a while, I hope. I don't know whether we'll get through to all the milestones, but some of the big things that have happened to us, where we've been very pleased with what's going on around us, and the way we look back at it years later and we go, oh yeah, that was a big deal to us. The first edition back in '98, so yeah, 20th century, folks. We're really going back to a whole different millennium. Back then, role-playing as a hobby was a very different space to what it is now. And back in '98, Dungeons and Dragons was still a big thing, but it was kind of taking a furlough. It was at the point where there were a lot of people asking, isn't there more out of role playing? And the new pretender had stepped into the fray, which was White Wolf, and World of Darkness was still a really big thing for most people. People love the storyteller idea, the idea that you could go a little bit more rules light and a bit more narrative in the way that you design characters, and indeed the way you run your sessions. That was a big deal back then. So when we first created Suzerain, we wanted to tap into a lot of that creativity, and we created an edition that was designed for people who'd never role-played before, as much as for role players. So we were going through some of the basics for people who were coming in from other backgrounds. And just like White Wolf, we're looking at people going, well, can we bring more people into role-playing? Can we do that for folks? Because sure that there are a lot of people who are actually role-playing who get it week in, week out, but White Wolf had shown that there's a market out there for people who'd never touched role-playing before, who could really enjoy this improvised theater concept. And then, these weird dice aren't getting in the way anymore. They get into it more and more, and they become a good part of the community. And we really wanted to serve those. So we created a first edition that included sections for things like live action role-play. We actually had a LARP section as to how to run Suzerain as a LARP. And looking back 20 years down the line, I mean, I think that you can safely say that it's a product of the 90s. It's that genre of it's that generation of role-playing games. I don't think necessarily anybody in this day and age would probably play it the way it was back then, but we're very proud of it because it was breaking new ground in a lot of ways. There are not that many role-playing games had tried to do that. White Wolf was the closest to it. And it was a big success. We put everything into this beautiful slipcased book. I mean, it's just a lovely first edition, and it was completely limited edition. There were 1,000 copies. That's all there ever were in the world, and they flew off the shelves. So we're always proud of that. We're always going to look back at that. As a small design team, we took a really big punt on making that happen. And one of the things that I want to do today is I know that we have a tiny number of those first editions still available, still sitting sort of, if you will, in our warehouse. And I'd like to make one of those books a giveaway for somebody in the
Hello.
audience today.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Okay.
We will ship
That-
it out and to whoever it is that happens to be the lucky person.
Nice.
Okay. I will, as a matter of fact, since we've got people who just heard you talk all about that, I will start a raffle immediately on that.
Keyword Mojo.
What's the keyword Mojo? What's the title of that, Miles, that you're going to be giving away?
That is called Suzerain Mortal Realms.
Oh my God! And can you spell suzerain for me?
Oh, SUZERIAN. No, AIN. Hold on a second. I can spell the thing that I created.
See, you guys all failed the spelling bee tonight. That's it. I'm the queen.
Nah, that's really hard. But that's okay. I can probably spell mortal and realms.
Okay, so and it's the first edition, and this is a is this a PDF? Is this a hardback? Is it
No,
a
this is a hardback slipcase book. It weighs about. Hold on a second. Let me have a look at my copy here on the shelf, my personal copy. Yeah, it weighs enough that small pack animals will actually whimper when you bring it towards them to
Wow.
to put it on their back.
Okay.
You could use it as a defensive or offensive weapon. So yeah, it is. It's a heck of a book, and yeah, I'm very happy to put one of these into the hands of somebody in the community. One of the last ones left.
All right, excellent. So those of you who already were jumping the gun and entered, I haven't started it yet, but it has been started now. I'll run a 5-minute timer on this. So if you guys want to win a first edition hardback copy, courtesy of Miles at Savage Mojo of the did I say first edition? Yeah, okay. Then go ahead and enter the keyword Mojo, so exclamation MOJO. And someone in the chat is asking, will it be signed?
Yes, I will happily have it signed for you. Yes.
All right, well, so there you go.
We can do that. Bonus.
So go ahead and enter, and we'll draw one winner for that when the timer runs out in just over 4 minutes. And then I will, after the show, I'll get your email and make sure Miles has it so that he can contact you for your physical shipping information. Oh my God, it's an actual prize someone's giving away that you can touch. And as he said, throw at someone's head and possibly be in trouble with the law. Unless you want to just open it and read it instead. That would be one option as well. So good. So thank you for that, Miles. That's very generous of you. And
That's
also,
awesome.
Since it's a first edition, kind of a collector's thing in my mind you said you only had a few left, so that's a pretty big
absolutely.
Deal.
Yeah, they're definitely limited edition, and so yes, one of the few signed ones out there. I'm happy to do that.
Excellent. Well, thank you, sir. So we'll let everybody know in just a few minutes. Again, if you're just joining us, first of all, shame on you. But type in the chat exclamation MOJO, keyword Mojo, to enter this raffle for the first edition book from Miles at Savage Mojo. All right, let's continue with. I think we had a question in the chat. I put it in the spreadsheet, Laroon, for you.
Okay. Question is, let's see. Where is that? What prompted the creation of Savage Mojo? Chris from Game Towel Warehouse was asking in the chat.
Hey, hi, Chris. The Savage Mojo has been around as Savage Mojo, that name, since 2008, and before that, it was called Treehouse. It was just a rebranding and a rename. It was created specifically to make the Suzerain universe, and it just happened that off the side of that, we had a bunch of people who were so excited to be involved on that as a product line, who also had a whole load of other talents. Back in the Treehouse days, though, interestingly enough, the people who were working on Suzerain, a lot of those guys were people who were they were working for big tech companies doing the first wave of ISPs and internet and online gaming content. And so we were actually behind the scenes, we were providing services to all of these companies for their online gaming infrastructure, their server networks, and things like that. Over time, as we developed contacts with artists and such like, we built this huge network, and we're very lucky to hook up with Aaron, as I say, back in 2008 to become a very high art studio. It's one thing anybody will notice about anything to do with Suzerain or Savage Mojo. We take the visuals very, very seriously. We do like things to look just fantastic at all times, and are always willing to put in that little bit of extra effort. And so from there, we started to offer more and more these art services to other people. And Savage Mojo has never really been primarily about that, but if you've got, in our case, 150 freelancers who are working with you for graphic design, layout, and so on, it just seems like the right thing to do to also offer their services out to other people so that the freelancers can earn a little bit of extra money. You see, at heart, Savage Mojo isn't just your typical company. And I think that's pretty important for people to understand, is that really, we're a collective more than anything else. Sure, we have an official company number and we file our taxes because that's what the government requires, and we do all of those good things. But really, we try to make sure that the people who put in the effort into the different products, whether it's ours or for a client, they get the benefit themselves. So Savage Mojo as a company doesn't have shareholders who are desperate to get their percentage and their dividends every year. All the money that we got either goes back into a marketing budget and a budget to help grow what we're doing, or goes directly to the creators. And so the freelancers who we work with and that we are actually ourselves, those are the guys who are getting the benefit. They're getting the money from it. If a book does really well, we're really pleased because the people who put the effort in, the writers, the editors, the illustrators, those are the people who will be getting the direct benefit. And that's really what Savage Mojo is at its heart. So that's a good question.
Cool. That's excellent. The timer just ran out, so I'm going to go ahead and draw the winner of this first edition campaign setting, and it's going to be very exciting. And I hope it's not Furied or Fantasy Grounds College, Leroon, who both entered the contest. That's so lame.
What? How is that lame?
Because you're the co-host of the show, you shouldn't be winning prizes. I don't care if it's
Don't you have that qualifier that employees and those affiliated?
Employees can't be winners of the thing.
Well,
all right.
For us to be an employee, he has to pay us some.
Can
I point out that this is the first edition collectible of Suzerain. It's worth disaffiliating with these guys in order to get a copy.
Damn it. That is amazing. All right, here we go. The winner as drawn is... Oh, Diablo Bob. Excellent.
All right.
So, Bob, you know what to do. PM me in Discord. Give me your email address, and then I will forward that to Miles after the show, and we will see to it that you get that prize. So, congrats.
And I love the idea that there's going to be a copy of Suzerain in the hands of the Lord of Terror called Bob.
Yes, Diablo Bob he's the Diablo Bob, the Lord of Terror Bob. So good. Thanks again, Miles, for giving that away. That's awesome. I'm gonna let he says TY, which I can only assume means thank you. I'm gonna let Leroon continue with his notes from the spreadsheet that we had before the show. So go ahead, sir.
On with the Inquisition.
Yes.
Yep. So as far as conventions and participation in like FGCon, things like can you tell us some of the things that you guys have done as a team or even with Peg to kind of amp up that presence?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I reckon that this is a pretty good time to talk about the way in which we've changed a little bit our mindset as a publisher. See, role-playing games, tabletop role-playing, as a hobby, it's not an easy industry to go to be a part of. If you want to make a go of it and have your products get out in front of a lot of people, it's becoming harder and harder as the years go by to get a little bit of distance from everybody else and to say, look, we're doing something special over here. Please come and take a look. If you enjoy it, stay with us. And there are just so many people producing books these days. The rise of drive-through RPG. Those guys have made it so easy, removed the bar to entry. And there are so many good products, and the average quality of product has increased as well. It's the days of a lot of the products out on Drive Through RPG being complete garbage in terms of the way they're laid out and the way that they look and the way that the rules are edited and the language used. Those are disappearing. So we took a look at this over the last couple of years and said, so what is it that makes us a little bit different? And we needed to take 2 steps back, really. And it was only when we stepped right back and looked at it and went, oh, wait, what is it that we deliver to people? What is it that we actually give folks? Well, we give role players an experience. We give people a fun time at their gaming table and hopefully lots of memorable moments. Now, over the last 10 years, we've produced something like 15 plot point campaign books, big hardback books, each of which has a campaign and setting material and player character options, new gear, and that sort of thing. And each of those, we've always focused on, so when they play this particular episode or this particular encounter or this particular session, what is it that they're going to take away from it and have fun with? What's going to give the GM a good laugh, and what's going to make the players go, oh, wow, years later, remember when, that one moment? And we kind of feel that that's been the important part, and that's why we've had some good success. We've won our Annie Awards. We've got ourselves Origins Award nominated. We've got all those things going for our different books, partly because I think that the fan base really likes those special moments that we put into our books and make sure that there are plenty of those good things to remember. And when we sat back and looked at that, and we went like, okay, so it's all about the experience that we give people and the fact that really we're giving them events at their gaming table. That's when we said, we're not a bookmaker. That's not what Savage Mojo is. Savage Mojo happens to also make books to get these experiences into people's hands, but we're really an events company at the end of the day. And when you look at yourself that way, you start to see outside a little bit more. And so we spend a lot more effort now in getting people into some of our events. And some of those are physical. Some of those are like in meat space. They're out there in the real world. You've got different conventions, your Dragon Cons, your Gen Cons of this world. We have one of the team who can't be here tonight because he's at PAX Unplugged at the moment. And we run events for people around the gaming table there. And those are all special events. We don't just do any old, well, we'll take a stock scenario and let you guys experience the beginner's scenario. No, every scenario that we run is part of a bigger plot point for the Suzerain universe. And I'll talk about that in a second. You'll find us at all these conventions. You will find us conventions if you keep track of us and you join us on Discord, on our Facebook group, or just at savagemojo.com and create a login there. Then you will see the different conventions that we go to and that you can join in on. But we also make sure that we're spending a lot of time online. I've been a very big fan of Fantasy Grounds, and unashamedly so, for a long time. And I really believe in what Smiteworks is doing. I do think that Fantasy Grounds is the best virtual tabletop out there. I do think that it offers an amazing value for money in terms of just the passionate support that the toolkit gets. And I really I want to try and encourage as many players to come to the Suzerain universe, but also to come and play online. The amazing stories that we hear from game groups who gather from around the world, it's great. So we are big fans of being involved in games in events like FG Con, FG Days when it happens, and things like that. We really want to be there for all of those. We want to run as many sessions as we can, and as we grow the online fan base for Suzerain, we're really pleased to see that we're getting more and more GMs coming forward and going, yeah, we want to run a game. And part of the secret of that is that you can run them as introductory games, but also we have a larger plot for the Suzerain universe, so that people who run a game, whether it's a one-off or part of a bigger campaign, can genuinely feel like they're having an impact on the universe. So that's called the Legends Awaken Initiative, and it's why our Facebook group is called Suzerain Legends Awaken. And unlike other living campaigns, the promise to the community with Suzerain is that if you come along and join us, you don't have to have your game being an official Legends Awaken campaign if you want to. You can just enjoy the community. Whether you're playing through Fantasy Grounds, whether you're playing through a game group, whether you're just going to conventions and enjoying it as convention events, that's fine. But the real win from our perspective that we want to offer people is that if you have a game that is part of Legends Awakening Initiative, we will help you. You'll be there, right there with the devs. We'll help you work through filtering in elements of the big storyline for the whole Suzerain universe. And if you're doing this and you're posting like your session reports telling us what is going on, then all the cool things that happen to you, those moments that I talked about, those moments where players go out into the world and say to other players, oh man, I had this character, it's this coolest of things happened to him, right? All of those moments, there is a good chance that we will take those moments from the session reports and they will become official lore within the Suzerain universe for the next generation of books that are published. So people ask me, well, what is the big storyline for the Suzerain universe? And I'll say, well, we hint at different things that are going on with a new edition coming out. Those who join Discord will be able to download beta versions of our various primers for what is the Suzerain universe, how does it work. It's right there in the announcements thread. But within that, I can see there's a universal threat called the Tempest coming, and the different realms of Suzerain, whether they're fantasy realms, sci-fi realms, gothic horror realms, the 1930s investigative wibbly tentacle realms, all of those places, wherever you're playing in the Suzerain universe, are going to get touched by this universal threat, the Tempest, that's out there and expanding its evil machinations. But where does that lead to? Well, people say, well, where's you've got some 10-year plan for this.
Stream. Thanks for the
before your next edition, you've got another 10 years. What happens next? What's going to happen a year down the line? What's the thing in 5 years? And people keep going, go on, you can tell me a secret. Shh, tell me. and I can't. And not because I don't want to, but because I don't know. I have an idea of the sort of things that might be happening across the universe over the next year. But based on which play groups come into different realms and say, hey, yeah, we want to play in this realm. We want to play in Shintar. We want to play in Gatherall. We want to play in whichever of the different realms of Suzerain we want to. And based on the things that they get up to, that I and the rest of the dev team will be helping them along with and going, yeah, hey, you know what? What if that guy were a Tempest agent? Run with it and tell us what happens. And based on all of that, the very fabric of where things will be a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, will be completely different. Example, the realm of Gatherall is a bubble in the middle of a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and in this bubble there is a city. It's a cyberpunk city. There's a regime that runs things in this city, and it's not the nicest in some ways. What will happen in a year's time or 2 years' time to that? Well, that regime only keeps its place because they have this force field that stops the rest of the world coming into and spoiling their perfect little place. But certainly there are groups going to be playing in Gatherall, some of whom will want to side with the rebellion and will want to take down the authorities. Others will side with the authorities and go, actually, there's nothing wrong with these guys. They really have everybody's best interest at heart. What's going to happen when the Tempest mixes into this and decides they're going to corrupt everybody and turn it all into an evil mess? I'll find out a year from now from the players. We'll take all the highlights from theirs, and maybe Gatherall won't have a barrier in a year's time. Maybe it will become exposed to this post-apocalyptic wasteland. Does that mean that as game developers we're going to be scrambling to try and figure out what happens next and to get all of that out in the coolest way to the fans? Yes. Is that lots of fun? Yes. Do I need to have hyper control over my creation? No, I don't even want hyper control over it. I would want the fans to enjoy it. That's it. I want them to say what happens next. And that's really that. So it's because we have the Legends Awakening initiative that we keep this open atmosphere of, all right, everything's an event. And whenever somebody goes to an FG Con and they see a Suzerain event, there's a chance that they will actually, the thing that happened to their character will actually appear in a book down the line and will be official lore. That tower block that was over there, that was this important government building, it got totaled because some guy ran their truck off the road and happened to accidentally knock the support pillars from underneath it. And so this building collapsed. It's no longer there. And now it's official. It's on the map. There's rubble in this space. It's those sort of things that I think make Savage Mojo and what we do just a little bit different to other publishers.
Yeah, that is so cool to me. That the idea that the event-based games, whether it's a convention or an online con or even something that they're reporting on that comes to you, it can eventually possibly be canon based on a gaming group's activities or even one session. That is just so cool to me. That is the greatest thing. I love
Right.
that.
So I got a question from the chat. The winner of our prize giveaway this evening, Diablo Bob, is asking, with the integration with virtual tabletops being clearly becoming more important, what are some of the functions or features that you wish they could do that they're not doing already? Or what would you consider would or could done better that hasn't been done already? So a lot of people would like to have things function better or differently. There's a lot of people are old school, but they still kind of miss the table. So but that's really not really as much possible as it, especially with a lot of us being older and whatnot.
I would love to pass this one over to Elspeth and Gun Bunny, because I think that they have a unique perspective as being behind the scenes developers as well as users and consumers of virtual tabletop technology to kind of put their 2 cents in. So go ahead, guys.
Well, I'm not exactly an expert. I make no secret of the fact that, first of all, I've only been playing RPGs just coming up on 5 years now. And I've only ever played on Fantasy Grounds. For a lot of reasons, I've never sat in a live face-to-face game. So to me, Fantasy Grounds is what's familiar and what's comfortable. And to me, what is normal in gaming. So I don't have all this other stuff cluttering me up going, well, it's not like that in tabletop. I had a similar experience in Blackpool. They kept telling me, well, the lights aren't that good this year. It's like, dudes, I've never seen this before. If you didn't tell me that, I wouldn't know. Like a lot of other things, and Fantasy Grounds is very complex. I grew up in a world before we had computers, before we had internet, before we were allowed calculators in school. And it's what you put into it. You're going to get out of anything what you put into it. And that's one of the things I like about Savage Mojo. If we put stuff into our games, God only knows what. See my avatar when Miles was talking about artwork? That was built specifically for the character we're playtesting in Gatherall. So, Miles, I hit all your talking points back. But I've been doing the modules on Fantasy Grounds. I won't go into that other long story of how I got into that. But I was both learning familiarity with Fantasy Grounds and Suzerain like simultaneously. And then Discord because they decided to come over here, a whole bunch of stuff. And there's things about Savage Worlds that I particularly like that aren't just combat. Oh, everything's combat. They have within the Savage Worlds rule, they have the dramatic task rules, where you have 5 rounds as a team, -2 on every roll to accomplish a specific task. GM will tell you what you need to roll to get there. The social conflict, where you have 3 rounds and your opposed rolls are against whoever you're trying to persuade or intimidate and I've seen some interesting results in these, but these are all the theater of the mind thing as the rules are written. There's nothing built within Fantasy Grounds itself to track those. Now, a long time ago, I worked with an amazing GM who built his own trackers for these. They were cool. Mass battles, too. And I passed that idea along to Miles, along with some images. And the only one that was available so far, Miles, we need artwork for the dramatic task tracker, the social conflict tracker, and the mass battles tracker. It's on the last one I did, and I can't remember which the hell one it was now. I've got like 20 modules on Fantasy Grounds, and most of them are Suzerain. Bunch of free ones. For those of you listening who play on Fantasy Grounds, one of the things Miles does all the time is give free stuff away. And there was a bunch of free modules that include a half a dozen one-sheets, some archetype, pre-gen characters, and anything you need to play anything within that module was a part of it. And he made them available on Fantasy Grounds too. And it's one of them, but I can't remember which one. I'll remember. Clockwork Dreams, maybe. But so Fantasy Grounds has nothing built into it for Savage Worlds to track these things that's generic. And my experience with Savage Worlds or Fantasy Grounds GMs is that if it's there and easy to use, they'll use it. And these are some of the fantastic rules within Savage Worlds and options that go beyond just, hack and slash, and murder hoboing and all that good fun stuff. And there's just nothing in Fantasy Grounds for it, per se. Either the GMs need to create it themselves or have somebody like Miles we can pester go, Miles, this would be really nice.
Oh, that is the sort of thing that we do, of course. We're known for it. And it is, I think there's definitely that thing within Fantasy Grounds where, like all virtual tabletops, people who come from a pen and paper round the table environment come in and they see a barrier that is, well, there's an awful lot for us to learn to do. There's automation, but it's not all completely automated. Therefore, we're going to complain about that because we've got to do this, this, and this, and we're trying to learn how to deal with the automated tools that are out there. Learning curve, everything's got one. When you first joined role-playing as a hobby, there was a heck of a learning curve, whether you played D&D or anything else. Yeah, think back, everybody, and those first days, they were not easy days because role-playing is like nothing else you've probably ever done before.
Yeah.
And so to all the people who say, all right, yeah, virtual tabletops, Fantasy Grounds, they would be okay, but there isn't enough automation yet. We need more automation. I tend to look at them and go, really? Because when you're playing around the table with your friends, you don't automate any of this stuff, and yet you do it like it's second nature, and it doesn't get in the way of your game at all. So why is it that you absolutely demand everything to be automated when you come to a virtual tabletop? If you shift your mindset just slightly and say, oh, they automate a load of stuff that we don't automate around the table, so that should allow us to go faster. We just need to learn those tools like we always had to when we went into any given rule system or into a new part of the hobby. You'd have been fine. So I'm not a big believer that more automation is required. It'll happen anyway because people will always want to make things easier. And as time goes by, we'll automate more and more things, whether it's for D&D, whether it's for Savage Worlds, doesn't matter. I'm sure that Smiteworks and the developers for the individual rule settings will continue to add more automation into different areas. But that's not the core of what the future should hold. I genuinely believe that as people get used to it, Jeanette said she has no experience outside of Fantasy Grounds. She's been roleplay for 5 years, but it's all been through Fantasy Grounds. And therefore, the round the table experience would be for her a whole new learning experience. You'd have to come up with a whole bunch of things. And wow, all these things aren't automated, so it'd be hard in other ways. And I think that as a new generation of gamers comes in who primarily play on Fantasy Grounds, they're not going to worry about how much is automated, how little is automated. They'll be pleased whenever new automation happens. What they're going to be looking for is more agency to come up with cool stories. And for that, they want more content. They want to see a broader amount of content. And I think we were looking more depth. One of the things that certainly internally at Savage Mojo we're talking about is how much more immersive can we make each of the modules to make them feel really, really cool to people. And if that means that they might get a little complicated for folks, then we make it simple again. Exactly what Janet was saying. We put out a bunch of free material. Play it free, test it, play it at home. You got a bunch of pre-gens, you got a bunch of adventures, a little bit of setting material. Just enjoy it, play it. It doesn't cost you anything. Have fun with it. If you like the setting and you liked the sort of things that were there, then come along and get the full module. And you already prepped a little bit for what the setting's like and what sort of character options there are. That kind of try it, dip in and try it a little bit. Then if you get into it, there's lots and lots of depth for you. I think that's what virtual tabletops are going to be able to do a lot better in the future too.
All right,
yeah,
cool.
I agree.
Let's see. So what's the history with Smiteworks like? Like, I don't need to know all the business stuff, but what was that like? Like, what was their first shoe into the Smiteworks
Like, who
world?
approached who?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good question. Can I remember back as to what that first tango was like? Did the stars
tango.
glint from Doug's eye?
That's
Ricky
what it was
Flowers.
like for me.
I really hope Doug's listening.
The truth is, I'm going to come across as a little bit of a starstruck kid here because I really, really am a fan of Doug and Smiteworks and what they're doing. one of the reasons why I champion Fantasy Grounds above other virtual tabletops is because I have frequently had people come up to me and say, but Fantasy Grounds is expensive. You can do it for free with this and that. And I'm like, really? But actually, by the time you put together all the things that you're talking about and to match what you're getting with Fantasy Grounds, you did pay a whole bunch, didn't you? Not to mention, you've got a load of disparate units that don't really fit together. So you've had to spend your precious time not playing and enjoying the game and having those experiences, but just getting the tech to work. And those of us here today who had the 30 minutes before the show and had to deal with the tech, we will understand that pain. But I love the fact that Smiteworks is extremely passionate as a group of developers on all levels to giving a good experience. And given that that aligns exactly with what I want from Savage Mojo, that makes it so easy for Doug and I to dance the tango. I genuinely go forward and evangelize for Fantasy Grounds. I do think it's a very good environment for everybody to get into. It just facilitates role playing really well, and I think it's excellent value for money. I am always amazed by new things turning up, and they'll Unity tomorrow.
Unity tomorrow, yeah. It's funny, Miles, your story about Fantasy Grounds, because that's actually how I became a member of the staff, was just my pure evangelical attitude toward the software. And Doug saw that in me, and I was doing it for no other reason than love for being able to use it. And I got to know him a little bit, and then he was looking to put together a social media team, and he said, you know what, why don't you just be part of it, because you'd make a great addition. And so I now work for him through just having been using it for the last 3 years, and everybody who watches my stream knows that that's all I ever talk about is Fantasy Grounds. I mean, there's people in my life who have no attachment to anything RPG who know what Fantasy Grounds is, just because that's all I talk about it, even at family dinner when these people don't know anything about playing games. But I love it that you're so passionate about building Suzerain and having the Legends Awaken world come together and being able to spread that out amongst not only people who can physically do it at the kitchen table, but anybody who has a computer. I mean, you can get into it and make use of that software to play Savage Worlds and to use all the Savage Mojo projects. I think it's amazing.
Well, I mean, to give you an idea, the Suzerain universe has around 25,000 players, and our Fantasy Grounds community is relatively small compared to that. We're building it, and we will continue to build it. But what I'm finding increasingly, just the last 5 years, is so many real life getting in the way moments for gaming groups where they go, yeah, we used to run a campaign. Yeah, have you heard this? Well, we used to have a really good game going, but insert somebody had to go.
So-and-so
somebody
went to
just
college,
couldn't make that night.
So, yeah, exactly.
Somebody had kids, somebody had this or that or the other happen, and therefore the tabletop, the round the table game just couldn't happen in the same way. And even if it could happen, it went from being every week went to being twice a year. They'd get together just to honor the game, if you will, and keep it going.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Fantasy Grounds does that I'm extremely keen to get out to the whole world is it allows people from, as long as you are available at the same time zone, yeah. If you happen to be a night owl in Europe, that's great. You can play with the afternoon evening crowd in the USA, and we can help put together groups of people who otherwise wouldn't be getting a gaming experience, and they can have a really fun time. And that's what it's all about, right?
That's right. You're absolutely 100% right.
And Miles, that segues into kind of what I was going to recap, is that I'm just as ambitious about this as anybody else. We got 3,700 people already that that share that vision. And so what we're trying to do is make that learning curve a little bit less painful, bring people together. And like you said, you got the time zone differences. We're working through that. And we also want to offer more than just one genre. We're trying to build it to where we're offering Fantasy Grounds and not just one specific rule set. So that is one of my community goals that I've put forward for our team. And Clyde was actually the first one to reach out to me. And I thank you, Clyde, for doing that, because we really needed the diversity in our group. And I also appreciate that you guys had taken part of our first year anniversary for our community. And also, I appreciated seeing you guys at the FG Con running games and trying to set up different places for people to meet up and play. And I think that is absolutely fantastic. That is in line with what I envisioned with the community. And I want to keep this relationship going. And I appreciate you guys reaching out and keeping in touch with me. And we've actually have a permanent link in our server to your guys' Discord. And I want to thank Boffrin also for helping set this up, because he's been a big advocate for you guys and for Pinnacle in general.
Yeah, I can second that. He's good folk, definitely. And honestly, there are barriers to entry for new GMs, new players on Fantasy Grounds. I'm not going to say they don't exist. There can be that moment of, oh, what do we do now? A friendly environment in which to get your first game running, or to find a game, is super important. Just as it would be if you go to a game shop and you don't know anything about role playing, but you've heard about it and you walk in timidly and go, "I've heard about this role playing thing. Can somebody help me?" And so what the FGC is doing is just fantastic. And I genuinely hope that, like you mentioned, FG Con, we had 2 people that I can think of that after coming in, this is their first time playing a suzerain game at FG Con, they asked, well, how can we find out more about getting involved with Fantasy Grounds? When we weren't really comfortable with the tool set at the time, but we want to be able to learn more. And of course, the first thing we did was to send them to you guys. It was like, go here. Yeah. This is your entryway to all that wonderful adventure without the stress, because there's a friendly environment where people will help you learn the things you need to learn, and from there be a part of a bigger community. So it's all good stuff.
It's definitely growing. We've grown our European community. It's really taken off in the last few months. So we're really happy about that, and as well as Australia and Oceania. So we're getting people from all over now. So that's a good thing.
And back to the GMs, running their first games. I just finished my very first campaign ever, anywhere, anytime, any place. Never ran a whole. I've run some one shots in fact, when I first got involved with building the modules, I contacted Miles, and we were just, Clyde, about 4 or 5 weeks off FGCon when we got chatting. It's like, oh, we can have you ready by FGCon to run your own game. And within that 4 or 5 weeks, I ran some, but so did Clyde for the first FGCon. We made a real effort to be at.
Good.
So it can look intimidating, but if you sit down with people, and like with what FGC is doing, when you sit down with people who know what they're doing and are familiar with it, it's really a lot easier than it comes across initially. Like I said, and I've told people right from the beginning, I like role playing. When you guys were talking about, I learned role playing before I learned RPGs, because I studied theater, and I like being on stage, and this kind of fills a gap since I've retired and stuff. And yes, I'm really old, Rob.
You're not as old as me.
I wouldn't bet on that if I was you, Rob.
I'm the oldest person. Even if I'm not, that's how people think of me.
No, that's all right. But the thing is that if I can learn this, and I tell people, if I can learn this stuff, anybody can. But I realize that I've also, put effort into it. I've had people who've taken the time to show me this. And when I do have a question, and here's the point where I want to give out a shout to Fantasy Ground and Smiteworks' absolute Savage Worlds rule set genius, AKL, because I wouldn't have done any of what I'm doing as far as module building without AKL, and how I pestered him and I asked him about well, it's not supposed to make commercial modules. And then he looked at it. And now we have this fantastic tool where literally anybody can build a Savage Worlds module for Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's going to get, I think that's only going to get bigger and bigger. I don't.
Well,
I haven't used that myself, and I build modules like daily, but I'm not a Savage Worlds guy on a bigger level, and I would like to be, and so that's an exciting thing that's out there for people that you can build modules.
he keeps improving it, and it's like, great, okay, I just learned everything you fixed in it already. Now I've got to learn again.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
Brain's
always
starting
more.
to hurt.
It
absolutely.
hurts.
But he does a brilliant job with it. The man is an absolute genius, and it works both ways because he created a single tool that's putting literally dozens of modules out there that he himself wouldn't have time to do. So
Yeah.
if everybody wins, wins. I love win-win.
EKL is a tech god, and yeah, definitely deserving of the shout out. I'm loving chat that they're getting a whole bunch of hashtag FGC rocks.
Yeah.
Well, I make no secret of the fact, Miles, when I met you guys, it was because I loved Fantasy Grounds and I had just come across Suzerain. It was literally the first RPG material I'd read in any depth. And I did that because, well, through inadvertence, I got handed the modules to build for Smiteworks. And I did the Lich Queen series and then the Shanghai Vampocalypse series or the Shanghai Vampocalypse. And I was doing Set Rising. And I just started laughing. Like every time I read these things, they're really grim, but they're really funny. And I just had to send like my literally first fan letter in 50 years. Last time I wrote was when I was 11, and it was to a museum, so it's not the same thing. And I was surprised when Miles contacted me back, but there's just a ton of things that is, and the thing is, when you are stuck, there's not anybody at Smiteworks or like Ikael, even now, if I have a question, if anybody has a question, he does take the time. There's still a small enough company where you can ask Ikael, or you can even pester Doug, or don't tell him I said that. A few of the other mods around the forums. Damned is a great one to talk to.
Yeah,
That's
the thing about the Fantasy Grounds community is that everyone's very approachable, and the community's always
They're all
willing
full
to,
of help.
Yeah, they're all full of help. That's absolutely right. RPG Clyde tried to put a link in the chat, and I think is what happened, and it timed him, or it didn't allow him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
slapped me around.
I'm gonna try to permit you so that you can do that again. So there, I think you can, if you do it again now, it should allow you to do it. And I put the link to the Savage Worlds enhancement extensions in the Fantasy Grounds forum, so people can go there, and that's what like how do you say his name? Ikael?
I'm not sure. I say Ikael, but I'm
Yeah.
from Michigan, and we say
I've seen that name millions of times, but I've never tried to say it out loud. It didn't let him do it again. Damn it, Clyde! If you want to,
the link anyway.
oh, is
I'm
that
sure
the
I
one? Okay.
I'm a spell freak. I can spell anything, but I'm sure I mispronounce 90% of what comes out of my mouth.
I think Ikael sounds pretty good. Even if it's not right, I'm sure the guy will go, that sounds cool. That works for me, right?
Yeah.
Yes, because we say so.
All right, guys. Before we get on to your links and all that, any goals or upcoming events that the community should know?
The big one. Yeah, the big one is happening, folks. With a new edition of Savage Worlds coming out in a couple of weeks' time, we have the new edition, so for the next 10 years type of thing, coming out again in that same time frame to launch alongside that. And we will be converting as quickly as we can to Fantasy Grounds so that as soon as there is a Savage Worlds sometime in the 21st century, Savage Worlds Adventurers Edition on Fantasy Grounds, that same launch day, we will have the new edition. In between now and then, just because there isn't an FG rule set for the new edition of Suzerain, that doesn't mean, given that these are minor increments between different editions of Savage Worlds, that you can't use the existing rule set to work under Suede rules. And I am very, very keen that in the coming weeks and probably up to about 3 months, that anybody who wants to explore Savage Worlds a little bit, especially if you haven't come from within Savage Worlds, so you're a D&D player, you're a Pathfinder player, you're wherever you've come from, if you'd like to explore it and you're interested in a little bit of that, okay, so how does this Fast Furious Fun work? come and join us. If you want Fantasy Grounds tutorial and help, then FGC is there all the way too. But come and join our community. The devs, we're very active. I don't think anybody's going to claim anything else. We're there many times a day, and we will try and put you together with games where you can be involved in experiencing Savage Worlds, experiencing the Suzerain universe, because the Suzerain universe does cover all genres. So it doesn't have to just be high fantasy, although there's that too. And from there, we would love to show you how it works, how Fantasy Grounds makes it easy to really enjoy a Savage Worlds experience, to enjoy a Suzerain experience, and you'll get a hand curated. This is what Jeanette was saying. Was if you look at her avatar, the picture of the lady with the purple hair, that's just one example where her character, we actually commissioned artwork. We were commissioning artwork for the new edition anyway. We said, why don't we pick players who are actively playing in Legends Awakened games, and let's make artwork of their characters. Let's turn those into official artwork that'll be appearing in books to come down the line, and that person can in their game go, here you go, professional quality artwork made for me specifically. And we do that kind of thing. Stat blocks for GMs, the way they go, but I want to do something a little bit different. Great, there's a dev right there on your shoulder going, okay, what can we do? Well, let's go and do some official stat blocks. And I want to offer that hand-curated experience to anybody who's listening to this now, all down the line. Come and join us. Meet us on Discord. Come to the Facebook page that on the links that we're going to talk about. We would be very, very happy to expand Savage Worlds outreach, and obviously we'll be working with you guys on the FGC to make sure that there is always a capability to help people get into it and to get into the swing of it. And Clyde's not the only one within Savage Mojo that's a very big proponent of that. So yeah, that's the offer from us. Is you can be a part of something very, very there you go. Clyde's just posted a oh no, I don't know whether that's made it onto the Twitch chat yet, but anyway, there's an image Clyde posted in our Discord. Hopefully, maybe Rob, you can grab that and share that with the community. So that's artwork that's from a player game of characters who are playing steampunk fae, so goblins, fairies, and the such like, in a Pirates of the Caribbean type of realm in Suzerain. And again, we took the chance to say, right, we can support this game group and give them a really wonderful experience by coming up with these postcards that represent the characters as they travel around the Suzerain universe. And yeah, any player can get that. You don't have to be a member of our team. You can always come and ask the devs if you want new rules, if you want to have art made for your game, maps and the such like. Come and do it. Just come and join us. There you go. We did that one again just for a gaming group that's playing in the Suzerain universe. So that's the offer. It's an open offer. Come and take a part. Come and join it. If you are already somewhat experienced in the ways of Savage Worlds, then come and be a beta tester for the new rules system. Come and join us. We will happily. There's a rules team loves having people drop into their weekly rules play sessions. Yeah, I think I've probably just rambled on lots, but you get the picture. I'm excited about it.
Awesome.
Well, also on the Discord server, the links to things like the new primer that Miles just finished and made available to those of us on the server. It's for MR23. That's the Mortal Realms 23. That's some of the expansions and playtesting we're doing, like with Gather All, which is what Mariah is for. And yes, her name is Mariah Airy. Because we're all weird that way.
Yeah, and don't forget the roundtable events that Savage Mojo hosts.
Absolutely, yes. We also run just completely open sessions where people who have no experience in any way, shape, or form can come and join us for an evening, and they can, depending on your time zone, I guess it's an evening if you're in the US, and we do these every couple of weeks where we just say it's an open table. Come and we'll probably play something for a couple of hours, but we'll also take a chance for the devs to just sit down and answer questions, to be there we'll hear what you've got to say. Our development is about as open community-focused development as I'm aware of in the role-play sphere. We really do take every player's feedback to heart, and we want to make products that make every player, every GM go, yeah, I had a little hand in that. That's neat. So we're there. We're open to people coming, and these roundtable sessions where you don't have to commit to a campaign. You don't have to say, I've got to be there. you just come along. If you come along, you come along. It's great every second Tuesday. Just be on the Discord server in the evening US time, and there'll be somebody there the whole evening, and we'll be talking, we'll be playing, and you're welcome to just drop in and pick up a pre-gen character and have fun.
That's fantastic.
Great.
Love that.
All right, so we have a list of links here. If you don't mind, someone can post those in the chat. We've been doing
Yeah, I'll do
off
it.
and on. Okay.
Yeah, I've
So the
been
first
posting
thing-
them, but as you say them right now, I'll put them in the link so people can click on corresponding with what you're saying.
Okay. So the first step is obviously the Fantasy Grounds official store, and I have it filtered out to where it's pretty much the Mojo products. So we're gonna bring that up, and I would like you to, if you have any comments or any sort of I don't know advice or anything about these products that are offered right from the Fantasy Grounds store, and I also believe it's on Steam as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that's on Fantasy Grounds is on Steam. You will see there a whole bunch, as this is something that Jenna mentioned, a whole bunch of stuff that's for free. Now, on Steam, it's actual free. On the Fantasy Grounds store, because of the nature of the way the storefront's created, with Doug's apologies, the store charges 99 cents because they can't actually make a product free. But within each of those, if you actually look at the product description, if you don't want to put the 99 cents, and I believe it goes to charity, that 99 cents, if you choose not to do that, you can still go into the product description, and in each of those products, there is a link to just download the product for free, to just get that module for absolute free. So we mean it when we say lots of material available for anybody to try. And other than that, the rest of the books represent plot point campaigns, which is a Savage Worlds way of dealing with campaigns and story arcs in different settings within the Suzerain universe. I believe we've got something like 15, of which 13 or so, 12, maybe 13, have been converted to Fantasy Grounds. And so you've got everything from steampunk fairies through to cyberpunk Shanghai as passed through 8 million invading vampires, through to
The killer dungeon.
the dungeon lands. There it is, the killer dungeon, old school. And we have. So we make sure that we cover a whole bunch of bases, but we love doing genre mashups. So that whole idea of we've got a steampunk setting, but we put it with steampunk fairies because we've got the Feyland. Why not? Let's see what happens when we mash those together, and it tells a great story. Similarly, if you're playing ancient Chinese masters trying to protect cyberpunk Shanghai from an invasion of vampires, you've got that horror meets cyberpunk thing put together, and again, just tells great stories. We love doing those kind of things, and we think that there's probably something for everybody there, although yeah, I say that, and we're constantly coming up with new ideas and coming up with new things for the next 10 years. There'll be a whole bunch of new stuff too. So if anybody's got any ideas of what they would like, then of course, come to Discord and talk to us about it, either at a tavern event or just come and say hi. It's that kind of thing. But yeah, there you go. The store, you'll find it all there. And free genuinely does mean free, even if it says 99 cents, if you don't want to put 99 cents to chat.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I kind of showed that while you were talking. People can go to that's any of Smiteworks products that are $1 or 99 cents that are supposed to be free. That's a PayPal thing. They can't get around it. So all you have to do is click on the product itself, and right up top it'll say, and I showed that, it says download the file here. Yeah, so you don't actually have to pay the $1.
Yeah,
Cool.
no, that's good.
So savagemojo.com, the actual mother website for the Mojo, what are we looking at when we're going there?
Okay, so if you go to the front page of the Savage Mojo website, which is what you had on screen just there a second ago, you'll get now various news features. I try to make sure that we've got some what's going on behind the scenes at least once a week, so that everybody has a clear idea of what we're doing. And if we are inviting people to do something special, which we frequently do, as you can see just from the show, then we always put that there. We also highlight game sessions and things that in that slot there, and that's people can click through to our various news articles. The rest of the front page is a little bit of basic information. If you just want to have an idea as to what the heck does Savage Mojo do, that's that. And at the bottom of the front page are a couple of links to our Discord, to the Facebook group for Legends Awaken, those kind of things. At the top, there are tabs for Suzerain, where there are a series of, if you will, tutorials that walk you through what the Suzerain universe is and why it's neat and cool. And those are done they're written in character from people who live in the Suzerain universe. So it's kind of a fun fiction thing as well. And then there's a Legends Awaken page which tells you a little bit about how that works and how you can get involved. But I think we've covered a lot of that, to be honest, just here on the show. So that's great. Well, there you go.
So the next link is the Drive-Through RPG arm of your store. So is there anything we should know about that, or is there any third-party people developing stuff for Savage Mojo, or how does that work?
So currently, Savage Mojo's Suzerain Universe is all developed in-house. But there's one thing that's worth noting. If you go to Drive-Through RPG for PDFs and print products, then you'll notice that the second edition of Suzerain is really split into two categories. You've got the broader Suzerain universe with all these different realms in it and all the cool stuff going on there. And you get a load of product under Shintar, which is one of the realms within the Suzerain universe. And the reason why that there's a different look and feel and there's a slightly different setup is because just like we have a very close relationship with Shane and Pinnacle, I'm very old friends. That makes us sound like we're very old. I've been friends for a lot of years with the creator of Shintar, which is again award-winning high fantasy setting for Savage Worlds, and Savage Mojo has always done the layout, the visuals for those books. And a few years ago, Evil Beagle Games, who published it previously, handed us the rights to that so we could integrate it fully into the Suzerain universe. And with this new edition, you'll start to see that it's completely integrated, whereas the second edition, because they have been done by two different publishers for a few years there, they have a slightly different subset of Savage Worlds rules. So Shintar, in all its glory, is actually part of the Suzerain universe, and it's right there under SavageMojo.com because we're completely the developers of it these days.
Nice.
Cool.
There it is.
All right, so we're going to your social media site, Twitter. So that just basically is your soundboard for new up-and-coming products, another avenue to bring people like traffic into your websites or your social media, your Discord community. So
it is.
Go ahead.
Is this where I make the big admission?
Yes.
Okay. Is everybody ready for this?
I don't know what this is,
Deep
but
breath.
I love it already, and I want
Let's
to know
do
what
it.
the hell's going on.
Deep breath. All right. I don't really know much about how Twitter
Oh,
works.
you're.
you're one
I hear
of
this from
those.
so many people.
I don't really. I don't. I kind of get the whole point of tweets, but I'm awful. In terms of, I will happily post blog posts. I'll happily go onto people's forums and talk with folks. I'll be on Facebook and G+ before they close it down, and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to Twitter, I just have this blind spot. I don't know why it is. I keep forgetting to just keep an active tweet account. So when you go to Savage Mojo's Twitter, I make sure that the stuff is posted, and we do talk about, oh yeah, we should get stuff out on Twitter. But I'm just terrible at it. If there is a human being out there, actually, I'll take anybody of any race. You don't have to be human. Who really gets Twitter and is excited by what we're doing and would like to be my Twitter buddy. And help me and teach me and guide me, be the Yoda to my young Luke. That would just be fantastic because, boy, am I just bad at it. I'm awful at Twitter, so I'm really, really sorry to anybody who has been following us on Twitter and going, who are these guys?
Well, there you go, everybody. If somebody is down with helping Miles to see the light side or the dark side, as it were, then get a hold of him through Twitter. No, maybe that's not the right idea. Direct message him on Twitter, and then in 2019 he'll answer you. No, but that
Sometime in
is
the 21st century.
Yeah,
is that the reason that I'll tweet out something that, new module from Savage Mojo, and Savage Mojo catches it like 6 days later?
Whoa, if it's only 6 days, then you got
That's
lucky,
fantastic.
girl. That's so...
Well, that's because I tag you guys.
Bonus.
Oh, you can do that? Wow, that sounds exciting.
Yeah. So it really would benefit you to
Learn a
even.
little bit.
Miles, I'm an old lady and I can Twitter.
I don't even know if the chat's joking about. Just make sure you get on MySpace. I don't even know if there's a video. I've never seen one. I think people just learn Twitter by learning it. I don't know if there's like a 5-minute video that actually goes through, okay, well, here's what a hashtag is. Here's how to tag somebody. Here's the way to use Twitter. Here's what you can do with direct messages. I don't even know if a video exists on that.
Several
I think
books.
Yeah, there's probably several books, yeah. But anyway, yeah.
But if you wanted to get into Twitter, then who reads books?
That's right.
Right. What is a book? What is this magazine I keep hearing about? People saying about paper. I don't understand. They cut down trees. Anyway, I think we got off on a little bit of a tangent, which is fine. But did we do all of their links?
I got a couple more that I want to talk about, and then we can wrap it up.
All right.
The mother site. So PEG Incorporated, or Pinnacle Entertainment Group. So do they basically cross promote or advertise for their branches, for their different
for the licensees, the people they're now calling aces? Yeah, they actually. I'm always in awe at how good Shane Hensley is at working with his licensees. And it's not a given in this world. Anybody who's ever been a licensee or has ever licensed out will know how hard it is to A, keep good friendly relations when times get stressed, but B, to want to work in partnership with them when you're also developing first-party product. Pinnacle have got their own settings that they're developing and releasing for Savage Worlds. And it would be very easy for them to go, right, we're going to really absolutely laser focus on this and just stomp the market, because they get a lot of eyeballs to pegging.com and to the official Pinnacle site on group on Facebook. Of course they do. They created the rule set and their stuff is awesome. So there's no surprise there. It would have been easy for them to use that advantage to just go out there and say, right, basically 90% of what's going to be sold is from us, first party, and 10% is going to be from third parties, because A, we can make the licensing agreement a complete jackass, or we can just stifle any media outreach that people have for their various settings. And that's not the way that Shane rolls. Shane has created a really, really friendly atmosphere, even once expanding the number of licensees out exponentially. I mean, it's just a huge expansion of new settings turning up now. And each week, for instance, they will highlight and showcase what one of their licensees is doing and say, well, look, there's this cool thing going on. Either they've got a Kickstarter happening, or they've got a new rules system, or these are new guys who are just producing their first product for Savage Worlds. Let's all support them. And they showcase this thing on their front page. They'll tweet about it. Also, I hear, and they'll talk about it in their various social media outlets. And they don't have to do that, and yet they do. They still choose to do that to help licensees out, and I admire that. In return, as licensees, I tend to think that as a group we're pretty loyal to Pinnacle, and we tend to sort of tweet and do the social media thing on their behalf when they have a big event coming up, like the Kickstarter that just finished for the new edition. All the licensees went out of their way to say, look, support this, support Pinnacle. Even when it's Pinnacle doing a product that's in direct competition with us, it's still going to be an awesome product. Let's support them on it, because that's the kind of environment they have. So yes, pegging.com and the forums there are a great way to learn more about Savage Worlds, to hook up with people. And yes, it's all about that's the official place for Pinnacle and for Savage Worlds. But there's a lot of traffic there from licensees and from people like us.
Nice.
And just to be clear, everybody, Miles is saying Peg Inc. PEGINC.com. He's not saying pegging.com, which is quite a different thing.
Yep.
I'm not going to go type that into the browser right now. No.
I think that. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of planking, where people lay flat on between two pieces of furniture. I think that's planking. I don't know.
Or to make it really clear, Pinnacle Entertainment Group.
Yeah, there you go.
They are. It's just that their website happens to be peginc.com, which, rather than pinnacle.com. So
yeah,
just so people know.
But if you can remember Pinnacle Entertainment Group, it's
PEG. There you go.
All right, so that kind of segues into the Kickstarters. I looked at and did a general search for Kickstarters, and if you put Shane Hensley's name in there, it brings up a whole list of stuff that have already happened or is in process. So,
okay, yeah, they just finished. Well, apart from wow, those guys are successful. Gosh, we're behind them 100%. The Kickstarter that just finished is for the new rules edition, so not surprisingly, it was a big ticket item in Kickstarters, and I can't remember exactly where it finished at, 500,000, 600,000. It just blew away even their expectations, and that's no surprise. I mean, Savage Worlds now has a community. I think it's in the region of 125, 150,000 people playing every week, and that is a lot of people who were very, very excited for the new edition coming up, and rightly so. But even when they aren't doing a core edition Kickstarter, they do Kickstarters several times a year, and generally their setting books are extremely successful. They're really well made, and again, Pinnacle being Pinnacle, they do like doing things which are slightly off the wall, something that's a little bit different. One of their earliest settings ever is one of my favorites still, is Necessary Evil, where it's a superhero setting, but the supervillain's already dealt with all the superheroes and they're all dead. So now you're a supervillain, and unfortunately, there's an alien invasion coming. So all the superheroes who would protect the planet have gone, and so now it's up to the supervillains to protect the planet.
That's a great setting. That's a great setting.
And it's just one example of many great things they've done. So yeah, I would certainly say that the Pinnacle Kickstarters, at Savage Mojo, we've had great success with Kickstarter as well. We don't do them anywhere near as often, but when we do a Kickstarter, we've had 406%, 600% funded, and we're very, very happy with the way those have all gone. So yeah, it's a good platform.
Nice. I think that's all I had for official questions. We do have your Discord link that we can put in the chat, and I want to ask the community or anybody in here if you have any questions or comments or anything for these guys before we let them go. It'd be great to get those out.
Yeah, any last questions from anybody, go ahead and post them in the chat, and we will ask them now.
Remembering that this isn't the end of things. This is just the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yes.
Well, I do have a question. Besides Savage Worlds, do y'all play any other gaming system?
Me personally, I have played pretty much all of it. Okay, I didn't ever play Amber back in the day, but I've played a lot of gaming systems in the last many years. And in that time, I admit that I have gravitated more and more as the years have gone by towards systems that flow fluidly through different types of encounters, like I mentioned earlier on, for which Savage Worlds has got really good as time's got by. And but for my own gaming table, and people will discover this on Tuesday when I kick off my Fantasy Grounds campaign for our Cyberpunk setting Gatherall, which Jeanette is in, that I don't actually run Savage Worlds myself at my gaming table. We developed a version of Suzerain in-house for internal use, which we published back in 2008 for a couple of years there. We were publishing material for both that and Savage Worlds. And just as a publisher, the thing we learned from that is that in-house rule systems, no matter how much they represent your game really well, they're never going to sell particularly well. The world has really moved into which big rule system are you hooked into? Is it D&D, Pathfinder, Savage Worlds, Fate, whatever it is? So I still play in that original system for my own pleasure, but I am aware that we would no longer publish in that because the amount of effort it takes to lay out the books and to put them out there for the number of people who will actually take a risk on trying something that is different, it's just not. We would sink ourselves as a company by doing that. So yeah, as a company, we stick to Savage Worlds, but I personally don't play it. I play a homebrew.
All right.
I think homebrews are kind of making a comeback. I mean, even smaller systems that weren't really that popular kind of becoming more mainstream. Like Numenera comes out with its own freaking video game. I'm like, are you serious?
Right.
This was like a Kickstarter that somebody got, and now it's like a fucking video game. I'm like, really? It's that popular? And I played it once. I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
There's no live interaction. What the hell?
We did publish a book, like in what I'm calling the Savage Worlds years that we're in, for 13th Age as a system, and that's one of those examples of, if you are a collective, you sometimes just find these things happening, and you do them because they're the right thing to do. One of our senior writers is a freelancer over in the UK who had been convinced by a duo who'd never published anything to be the lead writer on a system on a setting for the 13th Age rule system. And as a fan of 13th Age, he said, "Yeah, okay, I'm on board. You guys kickstart, you get your money. I'll write the book if you're paying me." And unfortunately, it was a sham. It was a scandal. They ran their Kickstarter, and immediately they got funded, basically trading off of his name brand as a writer, and he is pretty well known. They ran with the money and left him sitting there on the Kickstarter. Like, of course, nobody had heard of the other two guys, so everybody was like, "Darren, this is you. You've stolen our money. When's our book turning up?" And he's like, I'm just the hired writer. And nobody was listening. Everybody was just flaming him. And since he was a member of our group, a part of Savage Mojo, we call him the Savage Mojo family, and you look after family. We picked up that Kickstarter and said, "Okay, totally abandoned Kickstarter. There's zero money. The guys ran away with it. We will still produce that book. It's a cool idea. We are still going to make that book, and we're going to get those hardbacks in people's hands. We're going to get those PDFs out there." So we made a 13th Age book as a one-off, and it was cool. It was really nice because some of the designers who do rules work for 13th Age, who we had no contact with previously, we had no idea as to how 13th Age ran or anything like that. Some of the guys volunteered a bunch of their time to help us develop really good rules for the setting and to make it happen. So, a big shout out to Ashlaw and those guys there, who Wolf Samurai and others, who just did a great job, absolutely not expecting anything in return, to make sure that the people who had backed that Kickstarter got a great book. And it is a great book. You can find it if you want to get it. If you're a 13th Age player, there is a book called Nocturne on our Drive-Thru RPG site, and it's an awesome book. I mean, really, in the end, so many people came together, not expecting anything in return, and created this great book. And it was lovely to see that Simon at Pelgrane Press turned around and was like, "Wow, first timers, huh? Pretty cool." And can't ask for any more than that.
Darren wrote Nocturne too. If you go and check Darren on RPG now, 194 hits.
Wow.
I had to. He did Set Rising too. And
Darren Pierce, or Darren Wolf as his pen name, is a prolific writer. He puts down 5,000 words a day every single day of his life, and then goes off and enjoys his evening because he just puts down the words. They're great words as well. He's a lot of fun to work with. One of the nicest people you'd ever know, and he's now the lead writer at this stage for the Judge Dredd and 2000 AD role-playing games. So anybody who's from the UK who ever read any comic books in their childhood is going, "Oh, wow, that's cool." And I've got to give credit to him that we managed to do something for him, but in return, he also was very good to us. He's like, I am a member of the family. What do you need help with? And at the time, we desperately needed a lot of very high quality words written for the Shinetar Kickstarter we were running at the time, something like 250,000 words. And over a period of months, he was like, "Yep, don't worry about it. I've got you sorted. Can you make sure my bills are paid?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can do that." Cool. And he stepped up and did a great job. So family is family.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Darren, you can occasionally meet over on the Discord server.
Cool.
Yep.
So
I've got his page up here on the screen too. The Art Drive-Thru RPG, Darren Pierce.
Cool.
Yeah, go ahead, Liron.
Oh, a question from Diablo Bob. What's your favorite type of character to play? He's talking to all of you. Like special quirks, things like that. What's your favorite?
All right, guys, go for it.
I love tinkerers, anyone who makes stuff. And if I can, I don't know, play my game between sessions, building random things, I'm all for it.
Nice.
See, I'm a child of the 60s. All my characters, and I saw Miles say something about we all tend to, no, I have theater training. I've learned to break the mold. No, all my characters are rebels. I don't care what the setting is. In one form or another, there's some kind of rebel.
Clyde?
Yes.
Gun,
not Clyde.
Anybody else?
Gun Bunny.
I tend to play the righteous paladin swords, the uptight fighters and such.
It's so you.
Aren't you playing a squishy
He's
wizard?
both uptight and a fighter.
He's playing a squishy wizard that hides behind the little girls right now.
Yeah, Castles and Crusades, absolutely.
That hides behind little girls. That's so specific.
We
That's
got it.
Four
What
hit
about
points. 4 hit points.
He's got 4 hit points. I play a dwarf cleric. I'm like got 11 hit points, and then the other one plays a halfling rogue or ranger. She's got 12 hit points. The guys hide behind us.
And as for me, well, I'm going to say it. I'm a GM. That should tell you everything. I love playing every character in the world, and I've have over 200 campaigns, RPG campaigns under my belt at this stage of my RPG life, and I can be a player. I can stick to one role. Really, I can. Really. Do I have to stick? Can I not just play this guy on the side and have a little sidekick? Could we do like familiars? And then can I have summons that I can give them personality, and then I can have them in there? No, as a GM, I'm happiest placed in a gaming group because playing all the different weirdos that turn up is my great joy.
And being a Fantasy Grounds fan, and we get to test that Tuesday night, Miles. So tell us all here now, how many games have you run on Fantasy Grounds?
As of Tuesday night, 1.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I am running my first Fantasy Grounds game. Yeah, absolutely. I've been running Fantasy Game, and I've been promoting Fantasy Grounds for so many years that with now the opportunities come along, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it's time to put my money where my mouth is. I'm gonna be a GM, and I have kind of made a community promise that I'm going to build up so that I am running a game once each evening throughout the week. Each week from here on out on Fantasy Grounds, and we will see how that goes. Each of them in different settings, each of them different things, but all of them will have the capacity for there to always be a drop-in NPC slot for somebody or a couple of people who want to come in just that evening to try it out. So that's gonna be my thing. Yeah, wish me luck, folks.
There's nothing like your first Fantasy Grounds game as a GM and the equal parts panic and elation that it causes.
And I'm going to be right there to make sure he has the full spectrum experience.
Nice. So
That's gonna be
Miles,
fun.
I can identify with your pain. Since I'm kind of promoting Fantasy Grounds and Fantasy Grounds College, I don't get to play a whole lot of games myself or run any. So I get you.
Well, it just seemed crazy that I looked at it just recently as we were deep in the development of a new edition of Suzerain, talking about how we got plans for the coming years, again, 10-year development cycle, and all that wonderful stuff. And I realized that within the last couple of years, I have carried on running a home game, but how many other games have I actually run in the last 2 years? And that's just scandalous. So yeah, I'm going back out to the community. I am going to be running games for people, let them experience the Suzerain universe straight from the guy who created it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, I want to thank all of you for coming and joining us. This was a great show. We had a lot of information. I mean, most of our shows carry some form of learning, but this was just packed with good informations, and we shared all the URLs for people for the websites, and told everybody, about what you guys are all about, what you do, and how players can be a part of it, which is to me the most fantastic thing of it all. So I would like to give everybody a chance for final thoughts. They are not required, but I don't want to leave it to where you guys aren't able to get in a thought that you mighted. That's a new word that I just made up. That you might have wanted to say. So out of the 4 of you, Miles and Elspeth and Gun Bunny and Clyde, any final words?
I'll let the others speak first. Is there anything you'd like to say, Elspeth?
The only thing, that's the same thing I tell everybody every time, that if I can do this stuff, an old lady who just stumbled into RPGs about 5 years ago, and then the Great Calculator Wars, anybody can do this.
Yeah, amen to that. Absolutely. Yeah, it's for everybody. That's for sure. Clyde?
Stop by and visit with us. We love to talk about Suzerain and role playing in general. We just love to have a chat with
Oh yeah, he's Clyde the Suzerain Guide. What more do you need to know? Yeah, come by and say hi on Discord. Come by and say hi on our Facebook group for sure. Absolutely, be a part of it. Chris?
Just to reiterate what Clyde said, come join us on Discord. I know we usually have somebody there that can answer questions or just give a friendly shout out. So don't be afraid. Come talk.
Yeah, and my wrap up really sums it all up, which is what Savage Mojo is doing is creating a friendly community, a friendly space for savages. Whether you have any idea what the Suzerain universe is or not, come by. If you've never played Savage Worlds but are open-minded to give it a go and to see how it's different to what you might have played before, then come by and say hi. We are happy to have anybody come and join. You don't have to go hardcore. You don't have to go and dive in and play 6 campaigns with us in order to actually achieve level 2. No, you just come by, be a part of the community as often as you like. Just be with us. The devs are there. I'm certainly there. These guys are going to be there, and loads of other players are there. GMs are there to help you enjoy a better Fantasy Ground experience. Together with Smiteworks and together with the FGC, I think that there's a lot of good stuff going on right now.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank you guys for being here tonight. That was fantastic. Hopefully we can have you back again someday in the future. And I'm going to go ahead and go on silent. I'll leave you guys here in the chat room, but I'm going to close down the stream. But once again, thanks for coming, guys. I really enjoyed that. I'm sure everyone did. And if you are around 3 or 4 minutes from now, I'll be back with you. Otherwise, thank you so much. And I'll leave you in the chat room as I close the stream. Thanks, guys. So, for those of you that are watching, that was awesome. That was fantastic. I can't believe all the... I still don't know what we just heard. It was a lot of stuff. But I'm going to switch to the slides now, and we'll close her down for the night. Just as a reminder, next week, we here on All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show are going to have Chris from GTW. He will be talking about... You know what? Let me switch back real quick, because I'm going to show you... we'll be talking about his Kickstarter, which is going now. And I can get... Do I have the URL for it? Oh, wait, I'm on the wrong spreadsheet. Do I have... Nah, I don't. Okay, so I'll just type it in. It's called Squareware. There is definitely a... I don't know how to spell Squareware. There's definitely a Fantasy Grounds component for this, although it is a physical thing too. But we're going to be talking all about it. So if you guys don't know about it, I'll give you the URL for the Kickstarter now. Go check it out. But if you want to know all about it, Chris himself is going to be here discussing it next week. So you want to come back for that. So that's the picture of the Kickstarter page. The link's in the chat. You can go look at that. If you want to know all about it, just come back next week. Otherwise, I'm going to put the slides up and just remind everybody that we're here every Sunday night for the show. I'm not going to do the normal closing tonight because I want to get back to... I don't know if those guys are still hanging out in the chat room or not, but I don't want to leave them hanging there too long. So we will be back tomorrow for Module Creation Monday. We'll be here Wednesday for 5e pickups. Friday we'll be here for Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and Saturday's the Roundtable. So check out the schedule, come into Discord, do all the stuff you know how to do. I will put the end of stream commands in there so that you guys can look at those. Those are all links that you guys can do if you're not on Twitter and Twitch, and looking at the actual computer screen, which they're all there anyway. But anyway, thanks everybody. Great show. We'll see y'all back here next time. And until then, good gaming, everyone. All right.
Fantasy locations, sci-fi and western, and then the terrains and battlements.
Okay. You can do me a favor and just ping me a PM on Discord after we finish here, and that just will be the reminder to me to get that done and get those out to you. My apologies that one slipped off the radar as we were developing.
Yeah, well, it didn't slip off the radar. I've been in too much of a funk lately to bother you with it. It's like, I don't want to talk to anybody anyway. I was actually fairly cheery tonight, so.
Thank you.
No, I need to start getting busy with getting stuff and I'll start to get a part of the file today. But, so we do have that yet.
That's good.
And I'm still working on the sign tire stuff. I've just been struggling with some of it. I gotta go ask Kyle, how the hell do you embed the image? I got all the rest of it down and he screwed me up with the image because, well, the markup, but you're missing something to do.
I can show you how to do it the old